Hi everyone, so today we're doing our Unit 6 Mid-Unit Assessment Study Guide. You can solve two-step equations using all four operations. You can write equations based on story problems, and you can solve multi-step equations and explain the meaning of the variable. So what is the solution to the following equation? So if I subtract 8, my opposite would be to add 8 to both sides of my equation, because I'm trying to create that zero pair. Then I'm going to divide by the coefficient, the number in front of the variable or the number touching the variable. So -2, so I'm going to divide by -2. Divided by -2 leaves me with just x, because it's just 1. And 24 divided by -2 is -12. For what value makes the following equation true? So my goal is to get x by itself. So I'm going to subtract 12 because I'm trying to undo what's happening on both sides of the equation. So if I subtract 12 on one side, I have to subtract 12 on the other. 15 minus 12 is 3. If I divide by 8, the opposite is to multiply by 8 on each side. 8 divided by 8 is 1, so I'm left with 1x. 3 times 8 is 24. I've got, I'm going to add 8 to each side. So I'm looking at my integer rules or my rational number rules. Signs are different, so I subtract. And I'm going to take the sign of the larger absolute value. I'm going to divide by -3. -3 divided by -3 gives me +1. And -6 divided by -3 leaves me with a +2. All right, they want an equivalent expression. So I'm using my distributive property. So that's 12x. And then 4 times the -7 would be a -28. Write an expression that's equivalent. So half of 6 is 3, and I bring the x along for the ride. Half of 10 is 5. And they're both positive, so my sign's positive. So they want me to solve this equation. So half of 5 is 2.5. Half of 10 is 5. So I'm going to subtract 5 on each side. I'm going to divide by 2.5. So x equals 25 goes into 30 one time. So to divide by a decimal, you move that decimal over. And then if you don't have a decimal in the number you're dividing by, you move your decimal over as well one place. So if you move the decimal over in one part of the problem, you move it over into the other part. Okay, I can't have a remainder in 7th grade math. 25 goes into 50 two times. So my answer is 1.2. So I have 2/3 x minus, because a positive times a negative is going to leave me with a negative. So 2/3 times 6/1. So it's going to be 12/3. 12 divided by 3 is 4. All right, so if I multiply by 2/3, the opposite is to divide by 2/3. So if I rewrite this, this is 14 over 1 divided by 2/3. So I have to change, flip, times 3 over 2. 14 times 3 is going to give me 42. 1 times 2 is 2. 42 divided by 2 is 21. So x equals 21. Because 2/3 divided by 2/3 is going to be 1. 14 divided by 2/3 is 21. Okay, for these ones you have to clear the denominator first, so I'm going to multiply each side by 6. So I end up with negative 24 equals y minus 5. So I'm going to add 5 to each side. My rational number rules say that when the signs are different, I subtract, and I take the sign of the larger absolute value. All right. If I divide by 0.3, I'm going to multiply by 0.3. So 0.3 times 0.3 leaves me with just m. And I want to look at that. So 0.2 times 0.3. So I get 6. I have 1, 2 numbers behind the decimal. So that's 1, 2 numbers behind the answer. 0.06. And a positive times a negative is going to give me a negative. All right, what's the first step in solving for z in this equation? So the first step would be to get rid of the constant, which is the minus 8. So to get rid of that, I'm going to add 8 to each side. So that would be A. Add 8 to both sides. What's the first step in solving for z? I have to get rid of the constant, so I'm going to subtract 6, and then I'm going to multiply by 4. So I'm not going to add 6. I'm going to subtract 6, and then multiply by 4 or divide by 4. I'm going to multiply by 4, so it's B. For this one, they want to know what's the next step, so they want to use the distributive property. So I'm doing 3/4 times x, so I get 3/4 x, and then 3/4 times 12. 36 divided by 4, so that's going to be 9. And a positive times a negative is going to be a negative 9. And I don't do anything with the answer. So it equals 10. So if I look at my options, that's going to be C. A plumber charges an initial $65 trip fee plus $50 per hour worked. How much does the plumber charge for working 5 hours? So it's $65 plus $50 times the 5 hours he worked. So that's $250 plus 65. So that's going to be $315. When Carrie mows a lawn, she charges $5 plus her hourly rate. Carrie worked 4 hours on her last job. The equation 4r plus 5 equals 30 represents that. Is what Carrie charged. What was her hourly rate? So I'm subtracting 5. So 25 divided by 4. Well, I get 6. And I have to add a decimal. 4 goes into 10 2 times. 4 goes into 25 times. No remainder. So she makes $6.25 an hour. A farm allows customers to cut their own trees. The farm uses the equation y equals 15x plus 10 to determine the total charge. Y based on the number of trees, x based on the customer purchases. A customer was charged $190. How many trees did they purchase? So I know 190 is equal to 15x plus 10. So I'm going to divide by 15. So 180 divided by 15. So 12 trees. Janet rented a golf cart for $12 plus $16 per hour. So it was $12 plus $16 per hour. So $16 for each hour. So it tells me I'm multiplying. She spent $92 to rent the cart, so it's equal to 92. Which equation can be used to determine the number of hours H Janet rented the golf cart? So I know it's not 12H, and I know they added, so it's got to be D. Mr. Brown purchases tires for his car. The tires were $95 each. Each tells me that that's where the variable's going, including tax plus a $25 charge for installation, so plus the $25. Then it says that Mr. Brown paid $215 for the tires and installation, so that's what it's equal to. So they want to know which equation could be used. So it's got to be A. All right, if you have any questions, let me know. The answer key's at the back with it all worked out. But if you've got any questions, just shoot me an email or grab me during class. Have a great rest of your day.